It's great to have you here on the Clark Howard Show. You know, our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you so you make better financial decisions in your life.
Every time you point at me, every time you're saying that.
Well, you got to watch the YouTube show to see that because you start laughing. Happy Friday, by the way.
Happy Friday.
I hope that you've had a great week this week. And you know something that's so great? The days are getting longer again.
I know. We're coming out of the tunnel, chugging out.
I'm pretty excited about that because the wobble ended around January 20th. And so every day now, the days are going to get longer again, less darkness. But there are times that you need to cast a shadow on me. How's that?
Nice.
For advice that I gave that you're going to hear your response to, your feedback to me in our weekly Clark Stinks segment. And don't worry, this is not the end of Clark Stinks. But for now, we're going to get more new content to you since, I really stink because I'm doing 3 podcasts a week instead of 5. So we want to have more new content. So every other week starting now is going to be a Friday Clark Stinks.
Correct.
Right.
Unless we get so many Clark Stinks about that it becomes...
Then we got to really...
Right.
Yeah.
We pivot when we need to. How are you liking your new schedule?
I love it. I love it. It was a gift I gave myself.
Yep.
That to work 3 days a week instead of 5. And, well, I just like it.
And I want to thank everyone for the comments on the Ask an Advisor shows we're doing on Tuesday with Wes. Mostly good comments, but the feedback we get too is really important. And we had some microphone issues. Sorry about that. We've worked on that. And we're going to keep working on it. So thank you very much to everybody who's watched or listened to those episodes.
Okay, so those of you who watch the YouTube show, you see the mic that Christa uses and the mic that I use. She sounds so much better on the mic. You would anyway, but you sound so much better because you're using a much more sophisticated mic than I wear. I wear a sportscaster mic because, well, I can't keep still.
Yeah, we had to relegate you to and we might have to do that to Wes. We're threatening it because he moves around so much, and you need to speak into the microphone. But you were incorrigible, so we just had to give you one.
I am not trainable, so we had to. I kept saying you need to put me on a sportscaster headset.
I know. Well, we did it.
Yeah, sorry. So the other thing we're going to talk about today, after Clark Stinks, we're going to talk about a big mistake people make when switching jobs. But without further ado, it's time to get to Clark Stinks.
I should have never encouraged you to speak.
You must think I'm pretty stupid.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you're right, pal.
All right, I just really can't let this go. Your statement that a maxed out Roth is better than a maxed out traditional account is absolutely correct. But if you've got enough money to max out a Roth, then you have additional money after you max out the traditional account to put into a brokerage account. When you take that into account, it's true that the Roth is better than the traditional plus a brokerage account, but not by anywhere near the 20% you are stating. In fact, maybe not all that much better. It comes down to tax rates. Keep doing the great work you're doing, Lain.
Lain, thank you. All right, so let me tell you the 20%. Okay, so when people have the money pulled out of their check before they do anything else, there's no leakage. The money's going into that Roth 401k. On the other hand, if they're in the traditional 401k, and then they say, well, I'll take that money I'm not having to pay in tax right now. I'm going to put that money into a brokerage account. That's where the leakage comes, is where we intend to do something, Lain, but we don't get around to it. So for me, it's all about human behavior, consumer behavior, that is the reason I love the Roth version, except for an ultra, ultra, ultra high income earner.
Okay. I cannot continue to let you slide any longer. No stinking, but you can do better. With questions on 529 plans or college savings, come. So many people state they're not saving for their future, and yet you rave about them saving for kids' college. Maybe in addition, you should say, if you're not saving for your own retirement, do that first and then consider some for your children in a 529. As you say often, one parent can take care of 10 kids, but 10 kids cannot take care of one parent. An important parenting message should be college is the responsibility of the child, not the parent. I have 5 children, 4 are college grads with no student debt, and dad did not pay for school. And one could have decided to serve in the Army. Teaching financial responsibility has given them a much better start than paying for college. Richard.
Richard, thank you. And it's funny because maybe I don't say the phrase anymore. I say never save $1 for your own kid's college if you're not saving first for your own retirement. You stated it more eloquently than I do, and it is true because there are no scholarships for
I was
retirement.
going to say, I've heard you say that
There
a
are
lot.
so
Yeah.
many different ways of paying for college. Could be grants, work, who knows, loans. Did I say that? But there are ways to pay for school that don't exist for retirement.
Some of your statements about Brightline Railroad smell like a partially used carton of milk when returning from a long vacation. Not too bad, but not quite right either. Brightline is a tenant railroad on the Florida East Coast Railway from Cocoa south to Miami. They did build their own line from Cocoa west to Orlando and hope to extend to Tampa. So they do have to deal with freight traffic on about 3/4 of the current operations in Florida. However, with the exception of one major bridge, Brightline did expand the Florida East Coast line from 1 to 2 tracks to alleviate this congestion. I worked on this project as an engineer for one of their major equipment suppliers during construction, so I know the project well. The current trip is expensive and Brightline is not profitable, but at least ridership has been increasing. Jay,
thank you. I just love that Brightline used so much private money rather than just government money. And I haven't heard anybody mention the Florida East Coast Railroad in forever. They've got, if you go to St. Augustine, you see a beautiful old Florida East Coast locomotive and rail cars. And I did not know what you're telling me, that part of the line, in fact, the majority of it is Florida East Coast right away.
you stink like penguins. You would know how bad they smell if you would take that trip to Antarctica already. I just got back from a trip to Antarctica, crossing the Drake twice, and as a bonus, hurricane force winds while in Antarctica with 30-foot waves. I typically get seasick thinking about getting on a boat, so I was ready. Patch, pills, wristbands, etc. I did not get seasick, but even if I had, it was well worth it. Antarctica is unlike any other place. It was amazing. Don't cheat and fly the Drake. It is something awesome to experience. Just be prepared with everything you can do to combat seasickness and enjoy the ride. I've been listening to you for years and credit you for being able to afford wonderful trips like my most recent trip. You will never be as young as you are right now, so take the trip. Thank you for all you've done for me and countless others, Beth.
Beth, thank you. I mean, it's unanimous, isn't it? Every single person talks about how I just need to stop being a wimp about this and go through the Drake Passage.
I want to go, but I'm going to have some major pills. No stank, just a clarification. A few weeks back, a caller called about the bill they received for being transported by air ambulance. Clark stated the bill is protected by the No Surprises Act and to dispute it. I'm a healthcare lawyer, and that statement isn't necessarily true. He was partially right. It is under the No Surprises Act umbrella, but the bill still may be astronomical. The No Surprises Act just prohibits balance billing in this case. The patient, the caller in this case, can still be billed for their copay, deductible, and their coinsurance, the percentage that the patient has to pay, up to the out-of-pocket maximum. Depending on your plan, the patient responsibility, even with NSA protection, can still be $10,000 plus.
Wow.
On my health plan, for example, a Tier 3 air ambulance has a $5,000 deductible, and then the patient pays 20% of the rest. Remember that while the No Surprises Act helps, it can still be expensive. Ryan,
thank you. And the No Surprises Act surprises us repeatedly about how complicated it is to use the provisions of it. And I really appreciate your expertise on this. So you are still exposed up to your deductible.
And your out-of-pocket maximum.
Out of pocket, right.
I finally figured out why you stink. Your staff is recommending dumpster diving as a way to save money. Do you proofread these articles? I greatly appreciate your optimism and insight, but you'll smell like a dumpster if you take your own advice. And this is from Big Howie. And I'm going to read you the article that R. Dallas wrote on unusual ways to save money. I'm not going to read you the whole article. This is the dumpster diving safely part. This is one of those extreme tips I mentioned earlier that will not be for everyone. Dumpster diving is something I've admittedly never tried, but people who practice freeganism swear by this unusual money-saving tip.
Freeganism, that's a term I've not heard before.
Stores and individuals throw out an insane amount of food. In fact, one survey found the United States discards nearly 60 million tons of food, nearly $18 billion worth per year. Dumpster diving, especially right after grocery stores throw out damaged or day-old products that are still perfectly good in most cases, is one effort to combat this waste. If you do decide to try this tip, make sure you do it safely. Follow all local laws and ordinances to ensure that you aren't trespassing on private property.
So, long ago and far, far away, I did dumpster dive because long ago there used to be a thing where you got a computer with special rebates, but you needed the barcode off the box the computer came in. And my wife, keeping an ultra neat place, saw the box sitting there, had already taken the computer out. She broke the box down and threw it in the bin. This was before we could recycle those. Did I dig in the dumpster to get that barcode off the box? You know I did.
Of course.
Because it was worth $250, and I did. But dumpster diving is, as Dallas said, it's not for her, it's not for everybody, and it's an extreme form of saving money.
Clark stinks worse than finding out you didn't apply a coupon. Clark owes it to his listeners to join BJ's and make a sacrificial trip. Unlike Costco, BJ's doesn't display their sales near the impacted items. You need to look through their onerous list of online coupons and click to redeem. Do you do that before you shop? After? Do they really want you to get the sale price? I would love to get Clark's take on it, even if it means he has to finally join BJ's and forego a trip to his precious Costco. Lynn.
Okay, so Lynn, I was challenged 4 years ago, or was that 5 years ago?
I don't know.
Remember, I was challenged to go back, as I used to be. I was a BJ's wholesale member for years and years, and I found I wasn't using it, so I let the membership lapse. So I signed up again for another year as a challenge from not one, but two listeners, and I went to BJ's. I know all about the coupons. So much of what you have to do there is based on having a scannable coupon. And I just found that I didn't go back regularly, and I did not renew my membership. So different stores, like there are people who say, I don't know why you talk about Costco. Sam's is so much better. But actually, I think every one of these warehouse clubs has a market they serve, and BJ's Wholesale just wasn't doing it for me.
I heard your advice from a recent episode that was talking about a caller's Lexus that required 91 octane minimum fuel and that it may void the warranty if said customer uses anything lower than that. I can vouch as a former mechanic that car manufacturers will fight to not pay warranty claims, regardless of make, with the well-regarded Toyota being one of the worst recent offenders. Logs are kept within these vehicle ECUs, the engineer's computer, and notes will be made of this. Dealership mechanics are required to take very intricate notes and procedures that could have led up to any type of engine failure, and they will exploit any kind of possible misuse they can. In addition to this, and the misuse was in quotes, by the way, in addition to this, a majority of new vehicles are turbocharged and are high compression. This is going to necessitate high-octane fuel. Although manufacturers do make quote-unquote limp modes with lower performance for low-octane fuel conditions, these are meant to be there to make new vehicles stupid-proof. In today's day and age, where new vehicle owners know much less about the mechanical aspects of taking care of a vehicle than ever, please use the manufacturer-specified fuel rating. The EPA has made emissions targets and fuel ratings hard to achieve while also meeting consumer demands. If you were willing to spend the outrageous price of a new car, just use 91. Thanks, Clark. Matt.
Matt, thank you. And the octane rating, there are different octane formulas, but your point is something that another mechanic pointed out recently, and that is there are vehicles that say use premium just so they can meet their EPA MPG test levels, but there are many that will run just fine on regular and don't need the premium gas. You point out a reason why the premium gas should be necessary in order to not void the warranty, and I appreciate that because the point you made, you are now the second mechanic who has made that point to me.
Clark, you stink like the Vikings when they're playing the Lions.
Not all the time. The Vikings and Lions, it's fun to watch those too.
You frequently discussed end-of-life logistics, but I've never heard you say you don't need to waste money by having a will or trust. In Minnesota, we have the ability to use the very simple form called TODD, Transfer on Death Deeds. My collector car also has a TOD designated on the title. All of our beneficiaries are up to date. We have our health care directives and power of attorney completed. We consulted an estate attorney and our fiduciary. They both agreed that we don't need a will or trust. Granted, we have a very simple estate. Are my wife and I missing something here? Thanks to you, Christa, and your entire team, we have a net worth of $2.5 million. Skull, Phil.
Wow. Congratulations, Phil. $2.5 million. You got a lot to be proud of. So what happens to your money in the event that, gosh, this is so morbid, that you both pass away at the same time? Who's going to get what? What are your intentions? And yes, you can use various forms for beneficiary designation for all different kinds of accounts. Some of these rules will vary from state to state. And in a situation where you're just simply passing money from one spouse to the other, very simple. But what happens to your money with no will in the event that that you do die within 30 days of each other is the designation in most states? So what then happens at that point? Depending on the form you're doing, there may be a place on there for a secondary beneficiary. If there is, if the primary does not survive. But what if you have a form that doesn't allow for that? Who do you intend to get what? Is there a charity that you'd wish to have some of those well-earned and well-saved and invested $2.5 million? So if you don't have kids, and you didn't say you had kids, and you want it just to be as simple as possible, at the very least, you're keeping everything out of probate. But if you have goals you would have in an unexpected circumstance, those may best be met with a simple will structure. Just a thought said by a non-lawyer. And I can't believe how good the NFC North was in the regular season. Incredible. I couldn't let this go by without an NFL reference. Coming ahead, I want to talk about your 401k when you change a job. Last year, I was talking about how people have no idea what to do with their 401k when they leave a job, when they go to a new job. And the velocity of how often people change jobs is so much higher than it used to be. So this is a constant question. What happens that old 401k money? I talked about the options you have, moving the money to your new employer's plan, moving the money into your own IRA, whatever it is. The one thing you don't want to do is spend the money. But now I got a crazy one. This is data that Vanguard put out just a few weeks ago that finds that when people change a job, they end up losing a lot of money towards their future. First things first, what do? They don't. People tend to lag on signing up when they're eligible for the new employer's 401k. Some employers have a lag before you can sign up for it. In those cases, I want you doing your own Roth IRA to take the place as a placeholder till you can contribute to the 401k. But listen to this riddle. Vanguard is one of the largest administrators of 401ks there are in the United States. There are, whichever that is. Anyway, Vanguard's data shows that when people switch a job, that the average new job pays 10% more on average than the job they left. But then ironically enough, when people enroll in the 401k at the new job, they contribute at a lower rate at the new job than they did at the old one. So I don't get it. But what I've encouraged you over the years to do is, if you can't contribute more than you're only comfortable contributing to a certain amount in an employer-provided retirement plan, and you get promoted there, as I've always said, I want you at that point to increase the amount you're contributing to the employer-provided 401k. Why? Because you're used to living on the level of income you were getting. Now you're going to be making more. And the way Americans spend money, what's known as the marginal propensity to consume, when we make more, we magically spend more. So if you, before you have a chance to develop additional spending habits in your life, you increase, when you get that pay raise, you increase what you're contributing in the 401k, then you're going to end up much more comfortable financially down the road. When you get that new job, if you end up making 10% more than you were before, I want you contributing 10% more to your 401k. Because if you think the government is going to provide you enough money from Social Security for you to live on in retirement, you know better than that. And I know there are a lot of people who say, well, there's not even going to be Social Security when I reach retirement. That's not true. Social Security is just about the most popular thing the government does. It just may not replace enough of your income already, and it may replace less of what you need in the future, but it's going to be around. But the responsibility falls back to you and me. So think about these things when you get that promotion, when you get that raise, when you get that new job that pays better than your old job. Build money for your future. You're not going to miss it if you increase those contributions right when you get that promotion or right when you get that better paying job. I promise.
Okay, Kathy in Florida says, we were given a special 1-year deal to BJ's for $20, so we joined. Do you have any research concerning BJ's home improvement services? Can we actually get a quality bathroom or kitchen out of them, or are we better off concentrating our efforts on local contractors? And I think this is true of all the warehouse clubs.
It's not just the warehouse clubs. Think how many times we've had this about Home Depot, Lowe's, with the contractor programs. My modest opinion, is I much prefer that you get quotes from local contractors that you have references from. If you're doing a simple home improvement, like you're putting in a new garage door or something like that, you're fine using the programs at the warehouse clubs. But if you're getting into a major redo of a bathroom or a kitchen, I think really looking for a contractor who's local, who you have checked out references, you've looked at jobs they've done, I think that's a better path. I'm not saying you're going to get a bad job through BJ's Wholesale or one of the other warehouse clubs or from Home Depot or Lowe's. I just find that when something goes wrong, when we've dealt with this with the home improvement retailers, they have been very difficult to work with, and they've not liked somebody trying to hold them accountable for people having hired a contractor through them. I have no complaints that I've ever experienced with any of these home improvement services from a warehouse club, but I would be concerned about the same thing.
A couple of 529 questions for you. Tara in Ohio says, I have a question about 529s for an older high school student. My husband and I are finally in a position to start saving some money to help our children pay for college. Unfortunately, we are starting late. We have 2 kids, one in 10th grade and one in 8th grade. What is the best way to start saving for them? Ohio's 529 is on your dean's list, but with only 2 years left before graduation, is it worth opening one up for the 10th grader now? Or would it be better to put some money into a high-yield savings account to ensure we don't lose any value? We want the money to grow as much as it can, but are unsure of the best route to go, since most of the 529 advice we find is for parents with younger children.
So, Tara, thank you for this question, because I do hear from a lot of parents of middle schoolers and high schoolers who say, hey, I'm just starting out. Should I do the 529? And almost always the balance tilts towards doing the 529. Ohio also, as you may have seen in our guide, is one of the states that gives a state tax deduction for contributions to the 529. Don't remember what the limit is.
$4,000 per child per year.
How do you know that?
Because Sally found it and put it in my notes here.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty awesome, Tara. So you definitely want to do the 529 because the money grows tax-free. It's spent tax-free. You put money in a high-yield savings account and you're earning 4% the earnings on that are taxed at ordinary income tax rates, which is an ugly tax rate. 529, used for education, tax-free. So you get the tax deduction on your Ohio income tax, and you get the tax-free growth. Now let's deal with what you were saying about the risk. So if you go into the age-based portfolio or expected enrollment portfolio, whatever each state calls it, and you put your money in that for your 10th grader and your 8th grader, the money is put into things that have extremely low risk for the 10th grader, appropriate risk for the 8th grader, and the odds are overwhelming that you'll make decent money on it with minimal risk. So in your case, definitely I would do the Ohio 529 plan.
Mindy in Hawaii says, Aloha, Clark. I'm in my early 40s and plan to go to law school part-time for a Juris Doctorate degree in the fall of 2026 while working at my federal job. Should I consider opening...
I love this.
I know.
In your 40s, you're going to go to law school.
Should I consider opening a 529 plan for myself? I have no kids, to start saving for the high price of tuition.
Yes.
Or plan on taking out loans and pay down the costs and funds that I've saved in my Vanguard brokerage account. I'll try for scholarships and grants, but I make a healthy income and do not foresee getting much support from financial need-based opportunities, but it would still require several years to pay off because tuition's so high. I appreciate your advice.
Okay, so I have the craziest question as a federal employee. Is there not a need for lawyers in the federal agency you're in, or with another federal agency you might be willing to work for in Hawaii, where they would reimburse tuition in return for so many years worked after you complete law school? I mean, that could be a great, great path for you, is if there was a program that you were eligible for, either where you already work or where you'd work later. And I don't know exactly how you track that down, but if there's a group of lawyers working for the federal agency you're with, you should ask them if there's any program that paid, reimbursed for the education that they had becoming a lawyer in return for agreeing to work for the federal government for so many years. But the question you actually asked about doing the 529, you're going to be in law school for a number of years. You're not starting law school for more than a year and a half. And for the same reason I said for the Ohio kids, it's to your advantage as an adult to have a 529 that you own as yourself as beneficiary, that can grow tax-free till you enter school, maybe use it later in law school so it has continued tax-free growth, And so what you can put in there is money you'll use for law school, obviously, but it'll have time to grow tax-free. And I hope that you enjoy law school. Of things I would have been incapable of, let's see, which professional degree would I have been less capable of? Both being a lawyer, but much more being a doctor. I just don't have the right skill set to be either a lawyer or a doctor. But I hope that your time in law school is great. Part-time, usually for people who aren't aware, is usually 4 years of year-round schooling in order to complete law school. While you're also working full-time, you've got incredible dedication to start this journey, and I hope you love it. And loved having an opportunity to visit with you today, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic weekend in front of you, and know that we're here to serve you every weekend with our free newsletters, as we are throughout the week as well, our Clark.com newsletter, our Clark Deals newsletter, and you can see how to subscribe to our newsletters, which are free, at Clark.com/newsletters or newsletter. Both will get you there, and try them out and see if we can't make your weekend more informative, and with Clark Deals, help you find great deals on things that you need, or if you can afford it, you want. And we'll be at your service next week and know what we're all about. You learning ways to save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off.